Hi everyone. Today we'll be going through some data analysis for the biology of eggs experiment. Please follow along with your own data as I do this so that you don't have to watch this video again later when you have to produce these graphs. So we start with what we find at the tiny URL http://tiny.cc/2018BioEggs. And typing in that URL will take you to this spreadsheet, which has all the data from all the sections of JS002 this year from the Chemistry of Eggs experiment. You need to find your section and your group and your name. So for purposes of this video, I'll pretend that I am in section 2, group 2. And so that would be section in column C, group in column D. You'll notice that this spreadsheet is view only, so I can't manipulate the data that's in this spreadsheet. I need to copy it into a spreadsheet that I can edit and change. So I'm going to select the header rows and copy them so that I can see what I'm working with. And then I'm going to also select all of the data that I need to work with. So section 2, group 2, I'll just select all of that data. Copy it and then paste it into a new spreadsheet, which I've titled Calais Egg Analysis. And notice that I put the header rows there so that I can clearly see what I'm dealing with as well. So now I have these students' data and these are the ones that I need to analyze in a new spreadsheet that I have permissions to edit. Let's remind ourselves what we did in this experiment. We took eggs, 5 eggs represented by these rainbow colors, and we first removed their shells with vinegar, and then we soaked them in different concentrations of sugar solution. So the blue header cells pertain to the egg that was soaked in pure water. That would be a 0 molar sugar concentration. We have the initial mass of our eggs for each student, the mass of the eggs after the soak in vinegar, and the mass of the eggs after the soak in the sugar solution. So this was the pure water egg. The sugar solution had 0 molar concentration, but then we had another solution that had 1/8 corn syrup to 7/8 water. And you will be calculating the molarity of that solution as part of this experiment. So we again have the initial masses of the eggs, their masses after they had been deshelled in vinegar, and then their masses after they had been soaking in the sugar solution. You'll notice some of these eggs popped. Okay, so first I'm going to insert a column so that I can calculate the change in mass of the egg. So I'm going to title this mass change. As part of this experiment, you're going to decide whether to use the initial mass of the egg as your initial mass, or whether you want to use the mass of the egg after its shell had been removed as the initial mass. You'll learn something a little different depending which way you do it, and you can do it either of those two ways, and you'll have to decide what you're learning based on how you do it. You should do it the same way for each of these 5 eggs, the pure water, 1/8 corn syrup, 1/4 corn syrup, 1/2 corn syrup, and pure corn syrup. Spreadsheets can do these calculations for you. So say I decided to use my initial egg mass to be the initial mass of the egg before I soaked it in vinegar. Then I would say what I want in this cell is cell G3, the post-sugar mass of my soaked egg, minus cell E3, the egg's initial mass. So I'll type into cell H equals, that tells the spreadsheet that you're going to use a formula, G3 minus E3. and it'll do that subtraction for you. And then grab this little box on the lower right-hand corner of the cell and just drag it down, and it'll do the analogous calculation for the cells below it. So I'm going to do that again here. I will insert a column right, label it mass change. Always label your column headers so that you can keep track of stuff. And let me make it a little bit bigger so we can see. And then this time it's going to be equals K3 minus I3, equals K3 minus I3. 29, that looks right. And then I'm going to copy this down. Whoa, check this out. These eggs popped. So there's this error that comes up in cell L4. One of the things you'll be figuring out how to do in this lab is how to deal with the data from the eggs that are popped. There are some ways that you can deal with it in a helpful manner and some ways that you can deal with it in a less helpful manner. And your task is to figure out how to deal with it in such a way that it's helpful in your resulting graphs. So then you'll do the same for all of these other eggs here. You'll calculate the mass change. And pretty soon what you'll come up with is a new kind of table. If we just take the mass changes and we label it by egg number. So we have student number 1, student number 2, student 3, student number 4, and student number 5 here, we can say mass change water. Well, I'll just label it water, and we'll know that these are all mass changes. 1/8 corn syrup, 1/4 corn syrup, 1/2 corn syrup, and 1. So actually I'm going to put 0 here for the pure water because we know that that's 0 corn syrup. And then I can put the mass changes into this table just by copy paste. So I'm copying this and pasting it here. Whoops, I need to paste special because this is a formula. So it's looking for the analogous subtraction to do. So I copy again with Control C, and then I put it here and go to Edit, Paste Special, Values Only. And then here again, Control C, Edit, Paste Special, Values Only. So now fill in the rest of this table. Okay, so now I have the data that I'm going to use to make my graph. And the first thing that I'm going to do is change these egg concentrations into decimals because the spreadsheet has a hard time with fractions. So I'll change my 1/8 to 0.125, the 1/4 to 0.25, 1/2 to 0.5, and then we'll have our 1. The next thing I'll do is transpose this. So I'm going to flip which are the columns and which are the rows. And to do that, I type a new formula in the upper left cell that I want it to go to. So I'm going to type transpose, and I'll take the upper left of the block that I want it to transpose. So that's going to be F9. And then the lower right will be K14. So here's my transposed data set. Okay, so now I have my data transposed and I'm going to plot the first student's data. I do that by selecting the data that I want to plot. So I'm going to plot the concentrations and versus the mass changes of student number 1's egg. And I go to Insert Chart. It'll pop up the most useless type of default chart possible. So I'm going to go to chart type and change that to be a scatter plot. And then, as you always must in Foundations in Science, I need descriptive label for my graph, a descriptive title, and labeled axes. So I go to Customize up on the chart editor, chart and axis titles. Chart title will be student number 1's egg data, or to be more precise, mass change versus sugar solution concentration. And then the horizontal axis title, choose it from right here. You'll say sugar solution concentration as a fraction by volume. Okay, we're going to change that to molarity in our final egg write-up. And then the egg mass change is here on the vertical axis. The legend is useless, so I'm going to get rid of it. So I go to legend and click none. And then I have my first graph. In the biology of eggs experiment, we will not be putting our sugar solution concentration as a fraction by volume. We will be using units of molarity because we know how to calculate those. And that will be what's on our horizontal axis. And part of your task for this lab is to figure out how to calculate that. We also will not be using egg mass change on the vertical axis because it's a much bigger deal if a 50-gram egg loses 10 grams of mass than it is if a 90-gram egg loses 10 grams of mass. So the egg mass change by itself doesn't tell us everything we need to know. We want to use the percent mass change on the y-axis. So in this lab, your task will be to figure out how to put the sugar solution not as a fraction by volume, the way we measured it out, but as a molarity, and the egg mass change not as a straight change in mass, final minus initial, but rather as a percent mass change. And so then you will make graphs using that. But you can use these same spreadsheet skills to do that. Thanks for watching.